Hi everyone, thanks for joining this presentation. My name is Gazelle Saniee-Monfared, and today I'm going to present 10 mode interactions exploring co-located multi-user interaction on a foldable device. This was a joint project between the Human-Machine Interaction Lab at Huawei Technologies and the Computer Science Department of the University of Manitoba. Traditionally, for co-located collaborations, users might coordinate their efforts across multiple devices, or they might actually hand over their device to share a picture or some other content. They might also change their sitting position to be able to better collaborate with the other person. However, these techniques might suffer from some shortcomings. For example, showing mobile screens to others might create situations in which personal information is revealed unwantedly. Moreover, changing sitting positions and arrangements for a better view of the screens is not always possible due to physical constraints. So such techniques in the past might suffer from coordination overhead, trust, and privacy concerns. Existing works in the past, such as surface constellations and codecs, have hinted at the possibility of utilizing the convex form factor of a foldable device for collaborative use cases. For instance, surface constellations discusses the bridge form factor with its 3 partitioned displays to be suited for collaboration. Codex also mentions the possibility of using the convex mode of a foldable device for social context as opposed to an intimate or personal context. So as you can see in this figure, for more intimate and personal use cases of a foldable device, smaller folding angles of the device is suggested. And as the context becomes more social, wider angles or folding angles of the foldable display allows for a social context and collaboration. However, these works have not provided specific interaction guidelines that are tailored to the unique form factor of a foldable device. So in this paper, we focus on a specific form factor of these foldable devices, which we call tent mode. So tent mode basically has 2 outward-facing displays, the primary and the secondary displays. So the primary display is basically the display of the device owner, and the secondary display acts as a display that the guest user will use the device for. And there's also a third display on top, which sits between these 2 displays, which we refer to as the edge display. And we seek to answer whether such a form factor can facilitate content sharing. For this, we design a 3-stage process. So we first run an exploratory study to understand users' attitudes towards using tent mode in a multi-user context. And we then design a paired participatory design study to basically elicit interaction techniques that are specific to tent mode from users. And in an evaluation study, we aim to assess those techniques with participants to see how well they do in more realistic settings. Throughout all of these studies, we use a foam board prototype with affixed optical markers to be tracked by OptiTrack cameras. And we also use a ceiling projector to display graphics onto the foam board prototype to mimic an actual display. So in terms of the details of each study, in the exploratory study, we provide a list of 32 popular applications on Google Play and App Store and ask users to identify which applications they envision to use on tent mode in a multi-user setting. Based on the data of the 13 participants that we recruited for this round, applications such as Gallery, YouTube, browsers, Google Maps, and Amazon were among users' top favorite applications for use on tent mode. In the second phase of the study, we want to explore how the sitting arrangement of the users change based on the applications that they use. So we take the 5 applications that were chosen from the previous round, and we ask participants to choose which sitting affirmation they prefer for each of those 5 applications. So the affirmations that we explore in this study are the face-to-face affirmation, the L-shaped affirmation, and the side-by-side affirmation. And for most of the 5 applications, the first face-to-face and L-shaped affirmations were preferred by the participants due to ergonomic reasons, and these affirmations are more comfortable. And these data come from the 8 participants that we recruited in this round. Based on the qualitative findings of the previous study and also the prior literature, we identified basically 2 dimensions as the basis for defining 10 collaborative collocated multi-user tasks. And these two dimensions are basically the collaboration type and the degree of the granted control. So the collaboration type basically is either a tight collaboration or a loose collaboration. That's defined by the degree to which the two users are operating on the same activity. So in the case of the loosely coupled operations, the two users may be performing other functions prior to entering into a coupled engagement. And in the case of the tightly coupled activities, the two users would be working on the same activity. The second dimension, as I mentioned, refers to the degree of the granted control, which is either a limited control or full control over the device. And that is defined given the personal nature of like mobile phone device, in contrast to tabletops. So in limited control, the owner basically allows the guest user to change aspects of the viewport, such as scrolling in a limited way in the gallery application, for example. In the full control mode, the guest user will have all the same privileges as the owner. And we define these 10 tasks within these two dimensions. And for each of these tasks, we try to include them in the context of an application that was previously chosen by the participants as a good scenario for use of multi-user settings on tent mode. So for instance, task 3 refers to mirroring your gallery page onto the other side of the tent so that your friend can also see the photos. We also define an interaction design space that is specific to tent mode with 3 dimensions. The first dimension refers to traditional one-screen input interactions. The second dimension refers to multi-display interactions in which more than one display is involved in the technique. So basically, if you swipe an item from the primary display onto the edge display, since this interaction involves more than 2 displays, it's categorized under the multi-display dimension. And the third dimension refers to physical manipulations of the device to complete those interaction tasks. So interactions such as tilting the device or folding the device are examples of physical manipulations of tent mode. In our second study, we wanted to explore how users exploit this interaction design space in everyday life scenarios. And we designed a paired participatory design study with 14 pairs of participants. Pairs would take turns either as the mobile device owner or the one that the information is shared with to suggest interaction techniques similar to elicitation studies. We use the aforementioned 10 tasks, which represent everyday life scenarios, such as mirroring your gallery page onto the other side of the display, as the reference of our elicitation study. So in this figure, you can see how 2 participants are coming up with interaction techniques for tasks that are given to them. So the right figure in this slide shows a summary of the findings. For each of the 10 tasks, the most popular interaction technique by participants is provided by calculating the agreement score across all participants. For example, for mirroring your display onto the other side of the tent, the tilting action was a user's favorite interaction technique to have this interaction completed. There's also other interesting findings in this figure. For example, some of our users envisioned using the edge display as a menu, setting place for basically configuring what interaction mode they want to be in. For example, if you want to give the user that's sitting on the other side the scrolling permission, they might do so on the edge display. They also use the edge display as a placeholder for storing items so that they can later be used by the other collaborator on the other side of the tent. In our last stage, we basically tried to assess these interaction techniques with other participants. So we had 6 participants in this round, and the participants get to try these techniques with the experimenter. So some of the findings are that often the interactions on the edge display, such as sliding horizontally on it, were favored by our participants because of its clean feeling. The users envision using the edge display both as a container and a menu placeholder. Physical manipulations of the device are often preferred when they do not cause distraction to the collaboration task. And performing multi-screen gestures are preferred when they can be semantically mapped to the task. So these are some of the findings. For more details, please refer to the paper, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you for listening.